In John chapter 13, we read about the night before Jesus died. It was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. What follows is a scene or a story that you may or may not have heard of before, and it's a bit of an odd one because Jesus is about to wash his disciples' feet, which in first century Israel was a normal thing to do, but typically the job of a very low-ranking servant. But rather than simply read the story as detached observers, we're going to take a few minutes to imagine ourselves into the scene, just to try to catch a better glimpse of what Jesus means when he says he was loving them to the end. And I'm going to invite you to do something that might feel strange, but also might help us to more actively, physically immerse ourselves into the real experience of those in the stories. So I'm going to invite you, if you want, to slip off your shoes if you happen to be wearing any, maybe even your socks. I know that might feel a bit awkward and weird, but that's some of the point. To try to open ourselves up to embrace the sort of uncomfortable vulnerability of the moment ahead. So go ahead and do that now if you want to, if it doesn't feel like it goes too far into the weird zone. And then I want you to close your eyes. And we're even going to black out the screen for you here, just to better allow your imagination to wander. And then simply picture in your mind that first century rustic scene. Jesus is there, along with all 12 disciples. They're laughing, eating, talking. Dinner is mostly over, but there's still bread and wine on the table, maybe a few leftover scraps of lamb. The atmosphere is light, surprising given how heavy the recent days have been. But this is a moment of celebration, of togetherness, of thanking God for his provisions of food and friendship and freedom. Can you see yourself reclining at the table with the disciples? Can you hear the clink of the dishes, the smell of roasted meat still lingering in the air? How does it feel to be here, in this room, in Jesus' inner circle? Who is seated beside you? What else can you see as you look around that room? Out of the corner of your eye, you notice Jesus get up from the table and begin to remove his cloak and then his outer robe. Conversation around the table slowly stills as all eyes fix on his confusing movements. He pours clean water into a nearby basin, picks up a servant's towel, and then turns back towards the table. His eyes come to rest on yours. What do you feel as he looks at you? Crossing the room, Jesus then sits down in front of you, sets the bowl on the floor, and holds his hand out expectantly. He wants to wash your feet. Can you see it? Can you imagine this as if it were happening right now? You and Jesus eye to eye. What is your gut reaction to this offer? Does it feel good? Does it stir any internal resistance? In the first century, of course, your feet would be caked with dirt, dust, grime, and sweat. And yet there is Jesus kneeling on the floor in front of you, wanting to take those stinky, dirty feet into his hands, to gently massage them with soap and water, over and over and over again, until they are fresh and free. Should Jesus do this for you? Does something about it feel not quite right? Jesus being the important one, shouldn't you rather be in opposite positions? Does the world feel like it makes more sense when everybody stays in their expected places? But there is Jesus, kneeling and washing, erasing every last trace of hierarchy. Does it make you feel uncomfortably vulnerable to be attended to so intimately? Do you prefer to be the capable one, the strong one, the one taking care of things yourself? Is there any part of you that would feel embarrassed to have your mess in anyone else's hands? Embarrassed to be seen that closely, to accept help in getting it cleaned up? How much of this is true in your regular life? Do you prefer to hide your messiness from people, from God, rather than simply bringing it out in the open and saying, "My feet are dirty, I need some help"? Does anything in you resist this kind of tender care from Christ, the kind He's holding out every single day? You don't have to. You can just open up and welcome it. Take a minute to allow yourself to just sit in the vulnerability of this scene, the tenderness of love that Jesus is offering you in this foot washing moment. Maybe periodically Jesus shoots a look up at you in which His eyes seem to say, "This is what love looks like." Are you watching? Are you paying attention? Give me whatever feels messy, grungy, broken, and let me hold it with you. And then let me heal it with you. Not with greatness and power, but by stripping off everything that looks important and taking the gentle, humble posture of one who simply serves. Because this is what love looks like. Jesus, would you show us how to let ourselves be loved ever more deeply by you? Amen.